I'm gonna try and keep it a bit short this week, and because it's Monday. I need to go check my mail. I try to check my mail every Monday, Wednesday, Friday, and then what happens is oh right, I gotta open these. So check my mail on Monday. I also want to swing by one of the banks downtown and get some more of these because I've got a big
do you know my friend Maya?
little
No.
it's a little one of the Maneki Nico on my little household shrine in the kitchen. It's a bank. It's a bank, and it's full of pennies, and it sounds like it is almost, if not already, completely full. So I want to swing by. I want to stop by a bank before they close. Last night was hair dye night, and I did shoot some video. Forget exactly all what I was talking about, honestly. It was about half hour. I can probably edit maybe up to 10 minutes out of that, but I'm not even sure. Then I read somebody saying, with some comment on one of my videos saying that they almost subscribed to my nonsense here, but then they noticed like how frequently I've been making videos lately, and it started getting to me, and I'm thinking maybe excuse me. I'm thinking maybe I shouldn't have done that last night, and so I did not edit, did not post. It's probably backed up on the OneDrive already, so I so then what happens is I did get my Adderall refill last night. You okay, Murno? He's sneezing a bunch. He's allergic to dust. I did get my Adderall refill last night. We okay, baby? So yeah, let's see. Last night I got my Adderall refilled. And yeah, that's like the only big exciting thing that I haven't already updated with. And I'm getting notices from Walgreens that I might want to refill something very soon. I'll take a look at what that might be. Oh, probably this one. Don't know if who else has all been reading the comments, but Princess Trademark left one, and of course I had to respond. And if you don't want to wade through all the comments, it's up on my Twitter should be the most recent one. Ooh, looks like I might want to refill this too. Oh wait, I might have another one. Yes, I do. Okay. So, this is garbage. Oh, God. Well, my father's old adage of you can't con a con man wouldn't really apply here. I never was anywhere near manipulative as Princess has been, especially this last couple of years. I am the sentiment still stands that you can't really pull one over on somebody who is quite familiar with this bullshit. Somebody, an old acquaintance with whom I share some mutual friends, she's suggested that Princess has probably got some depression going on, and while that certainly would not surprise me, it doesn't excuse anything at all. Definitely not, and definitely not a lot of character flaws that I have gotten an earful from people about, that simply cannot be explained by clinical depression. So, okay, and oh, I do have a couple of the, literally 4. Okay. Yep. Okay, so getting some more of Lisa one, and addition to the other one, and all right. So, seriously, close. It's like, and seriously, just like Princess's little barrage of lies in the comment, just, especially some that are very clearly transparent, like about her claims to her only source of income, which is just such a transparent lie. It's reminding me so much of my younger sister who died 2 years ago this July, right around the time of my birthday, which I know for a fact was a big giant fuck you to me that she did. I know she did it intentionally, whether her intent was to die from that overdose or whether her intent was to just have it get back around to me that she OD'd on my birthday. That's anybody's guess, but it's like, this little barrage of lies just reminded me so much of my younger sister who died a couple years ago from a heroin overdose. Girl was a literal combination heroin crack addict. So, if I ever mention my crack smoking younger sister, that is in literal that is literal terms. She was indeed a crack smoker, and I don't mean that as, I don't know if it's that common outside of the Metro Detroit area, but, a lot of people will say crack smoker as a slang term for somebody who's just not right in the head, but no, in Molly's case, she was a literal crack smoker. And then what happens is, so like I said, it just reminds me of the last conversation I had with Molly, where, it was just this barrage of, as far as I was concerned, Molly was lying to me for about 2.5 hours straight. and, which I did confirm was indeed lies, or at least enough of it was lies that I am not buying the rest of it because, in Molly's world, you know, anything she told you was either a lie or it was just true enough she'd hope you'd buy the lie. um, but yeah, it just reminds me of that, which kind of like, I don't know, like Molly definitely had her mental health problems, and and I feel for that. I mean, I've got my own mental health problems, some of which are directly related to, growing up in the household that she and I did. On the other hand, Molly turned out to be a crack addicted manipulator who, thought she could pull one over on everybody as easily as she pulled one over on our father. That's another story for another time. And I turned into a pathologically self-deprecating fairy who, who genuinely needs medications. And like, it's at the point where, I've got a video coming up, like it's in my head. I just need to script out an outline, which is the most I do for a lot of the ones that I refer to as scripted. But yeah, I've got this video in my head that I need to at least outline something script-like for, about, the unintended consequences of growing up around, like with family members who have a history of substance abuse. One of which is being that even though I have not ever personally had any issues with substance abuse, I will wait until possibly the last minute to, like, oh God, my psychiatrist was actually the one who, like recommended medication for my ADHD, which was diagnosed about 12, 13 years ago. But that mental health professional and I at the time, she and I agreed that, it was probably in my best interest to work on other things first, especially because she was a gender specialist, and that's what I was going to see her for. And while she did have other patients who had ADHD, that was not something that, she had much experience with, so was not in a position to recommend, she was not comfortable recommending, medication or not, but, she suggested I might want to, like when I'm at a point where I can deal with that. So I dealt, that first, then the anxiety disorder next, and now I was at a state where I was thinking, okay, maybe I want to work on, the ADHD that Dr. Salmons agreed with me would be, good to work on at a point in my life. And I was thinking, like maybe we could try like cognitive behavioral therapy first. And oh, thank you so much. Hi. Yeah, I was about to wrap up actually. Like I just filled my pill organizer for the week, and that's usually what this all is about. Like I'll fill my pill organizer and then like ramble on, sometimes for like well over half an hour after I've finished with that. And I need to do shit today. I need to go to the post office and check my mail. I want to swing by one of the banks downtown. My bank is still out in California from when I lived there, and I haven't moved it for a number of reasons. But there's a couple of banks downtown that will very gladly give out penny wraps, and I've got a thing in my kitchen that is full of pennies. If not completely, then yeah. But but yeah, like one of the unintended consequences of, like growing up with a family that's got a history of substance abuse, even if you don't have that even if you don't share that history, is like, yeah, like I was thinking maybe we could start maybe with some cognitive behavioral therapy for the ADHD, but it was Dr. Shahal who suggested the medications first, and like when my dosage got got raised by 5 milligrams. That was actually her suggestion completely. I don't know what she was picking up on that that drove her to that suggestion, but yeah, that was completely her suggestion. And here it's like the same thing. Is like I keep trying to justify it because, I want to make it clear that this is not my problem. Like, my problem is like when I'm under stress, I get withdrawn and look for I get withdrawn and kind of avoidant, but like avoidant is kind of like I don't know. It sounds like more intentional. It's more just like emotionally, I just completely shut down and don't want to deal with anything. And it's not depression. It's not depression in any clinical sense. Like by any clinical definition, it's not a depressive reaction, but it is like, a withdrawn sort of avoidant kind of reaction. So, that's been my response to stress is like, I don't go, like seeking, various substances to abuse. Like I barely have a glass of wine with dinner, like once a week, maybe twice if I'm feeling lucky or something. I don't know why I said lucky. But yeah, it's and like I've run into a lot of other people who like grew up in a similar kind of household, like and my dad was in recovery. He's allergic to dust. That's what the sneezing's all about, is I need to vacuum. And might also be that he got some half and half on his nose. That happens sometimes too, because I give a little bit to Nigel with my breakfast, which is pretty much coffee and almond milk and cranberry juice. Um, but then what happens? So yeah, like I've run into other people who grew up like my dad was in AA pretty much my entire life. The only time I'd seen him fall off the wagon was during the divorce, and that was like week, maybe week and a half. Sometimes I rounded up to 2 weeks. I don't know. It just sounds more fair, I guess. But yeah, he quickly got himself back on and started going back to meetings completely of his own volition, because he knew that if he didn't, he was going to screw things over for himself. And but yeah, like he'd been in AA my entire life, so like I knew just from the fact that he used AA as a cheap or free babysitter a lot. Well, more like free babysitter a lot. Because babysitters cancel, maybe you can't find one at the last minute or something. And and he led the Monday night big book meetings most of the time. So yeah, like it was a case where like, maybe like somebody canceled, or like, he tried everybody and couldn't find anybody. And but yeah, so like I knew just from, listening in on various people, especially him, that the last thing you want to do when you're feeling depressed, or that or otherwise extremely stressed and unable to cope, like turning to drugs and alcohol is probably the worst idea, because then you start to associate that. And this is something that I came up with on my own, but so far it seems to be the leading theories amongst doctors and psychiatrists and all that involved, who specialize in substance abuse. So yeah, the science of substance abuse seems to be that it's kind of like, I've seen it described as an acquired learning disorder, that like when you're at this extremely stressful down point in your life, and ideally, or like ideally for the condition to set in, it would be during this period of formative years, like your between your young teens and your early 20s. And my dad had been in and out of AA since he was about 14, meaning he'd been drinking since he was at least 13. So so like between like your young teens and your early 20s, there's this like kind of is this kind of sweet spot for addiction to set in. And it's like if you turn to substance abuse during this time in your life, you will learn that this is an easy way to make your problems feel less. And I just kind of like learned from examples of what not to do, like how substance abuse, during this, especially during that formative time in your life, because that's something that I noticed like most of them had in common was, it wasn't something that, they later picked up on, which is why a lot of people are now calling it kind of like a learning disorder, that's acquired. It's like, as far as the whole like genetic predisposition to addiction, that's still very much debated in the medical circles that specialize in this. There are some genes that are associated with it, but again, like that's correlation. Doesn't necessarily equal causation. That's the part that's still up for debate. So like I said, like I learned from listening to them on what not to do, that this is probably like a bad idea. Like if I'm stressed or otherwise like high mental health maintenance part, like do I want to turn to drugs or alcohol? My takeaway from hearing them out was probably no. Do I turn to writing? Do I turn to music, both making and listening? Do I turn to art? Do I turn to just, something even vaguely creative? Jigsaw puzzles. That's something I did a couple weeks ago after after I had finally learned my stepmother died, because that was something that she and I enjoyed doing together. I've picked up coloring books lately too, just because in no small part due to the mess my ex left of the place. It's like I'd have to clean up so much before getting out certain instruments, like my harmonium, or propping up my easel for painting. And it's like, or even just like laying out newspaper under a canvas or whatever for painting. It's like, so coloring books, puzzles, that's relatively like, I don't need to lay out too much on the kitchen table for a puzzle. I don't even need to clean up around me for a coloring book. So it's like, do I turn to creative outlets? That's something I learned to do under stress. When I was at that sweet spot age for substance abuse, I forgot my vitamins. I took my pills already, like before I even started filling the pods for the week. And but yeah, so it's like my psychiatrist, it's like pulling teeth for her to get me to consider raising the dose or trying meds in the first place. It's like with my pain medication, like I was like a lot of the spinal curvature has like, I mean, I've still got some curvature, but it's kind of gotten better over the years. But still, it's like I was so twisted up before I was willing to take oh, hello. You have a great, you sleep well, I guess. Yeah, because you're going to be sleeping. Oh, and I've already gone on a bit longer than I had initially intended to, so I'm going to finish up the show I started when I started this, and then let's see. Last night was hair dye night, so I am good as far as showers go. I might want to refresh the antiperspirant though, and then yeah, I can post office, bank for penny wraps, and then back home. Yeah, I really need to do the power supply on the computer, and some laundry, and hopefully have some time to go out tonight. That would be nice. I would like to go out tonight. It's been a week, hasn't it? All right. Well, as I tend to say, bats and kisses, and take care of yourselves, and I love you, and good night, good day, wherever you are. Oh, and I'm thinking of switching up some of my greetings to like greetings and salutations and all of that to Irish language in upcoming videos, just because I'm learning it, and some of the advice I've gotten from other people who, have learned it to some extent of conversational fluency, they all seem to say just like try and integrate it as much as possible. So, I'm probably not going to be making whole videos in it anytime soon. But if I get to that point, I will certainly do an English equivalent. That would be nice, wouldn't it? All right.